Hello and welcome back to Culinary Haven. It's autumn and we like to cook and bake autumnal things. And today we're making apple muffins. But not any apple muffins. Culinary Haven's take on the classic Culinary Haven apple muffins with toffee glaze. Let's begin. To make these muffins we'll need about 100 grams of soft dried apples, which we'll chop up and infuse with freshly brewed Earl Grey tea. Then we'll need 180 grams of unsalted butter at room temperature. Actually, all ingredients should be at room temperature. 2 eggs, half a cup of whole milk, half a cup of natural yogurt or buttermilk, and 2.5 cups of plain flour. And I'll start with brewing the tea. And in the meantime, as the tea is brewing, we'll chop up the apples. Just as you would an onion, just small dice. And the last one. Now I'm going to put it back into the bowl. It will probably be 1.5 cups of chopped dried apples. And the tea is now ready. Smells gorgeous. I love Earl Grey. And pouring the tea over the apples. Let them sit like this for about 20 minutes or so. They will infuse the Earl Grey tea flavor and plump up, and then we'll drain them. And the next step is we'll cream the butter with 1 cup of sugar, which I didn't mention before, the sugar. 180 grams of butter at room temperature and 1 cup of sugar. You can do it either on a stand mixer with a paddle attachment or with a handheld mixer as well, or just by hand with the whisk. On low speed first, just to break the butter. And we keep the motor running until the butter is all nice and fluffy. We'll scrape the paddle and the sides and give it another 30 seconds or so. That's enough. And now we'll scrape down the sides of the bowl and add the eggs on medium speed, 1 at a time. Scrape that down and add the second egg. I advise everyone, if you can, invest in a stand mixer. It's invaluable. Scrape a little bit, but it's all nice and creamy now. Just for perfection, we'll give it another few seconds. Absolutely perfect, nice, fluffy, creamy consistency. And before we continue, I'll actually strain the apples through a colander or a sieve. They're already nicely plumped up, and leave them like this until all the excess liquid is in the jug. And we'll continue with the batter. We're using half milk, half a cup of milk, and half either natural yogurt or buttermilk or kefir, either of those will do. So I'm adding half a cup of milk at room temperature. Half a cup of natural yogurt, unflavored, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And now with the dry ingredients, we'll need 2.5 cups of plain flour, which we'll sift into this bowl with half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of soda. always sift your flour. 2.5 cups of plain flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, level teaspoons, 1/4 of a teaspoon of soda. Don't overuse soda, it's not good. A very little amount of soda goes a very long way. 1/4 of a teaspoon is plenty. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And a teaspoon of cinnamon. That's all dry ingredients there, and we'll sift it in. Now we'll return the bowl into the stand and start mixing it on a very low speed, just to get it going. And in general, it requires very little mixing, just until combined. So just a little bit more, gradually increase the speed, and that's enough. And now we're adding the apples. Adding the apples. Oops, some left. And a little bit more stirring. That's enough. People complain and moan about tough pastry, and it's most likely because the batter was overworked. Very little, just until combined. That's plenty. Scrape everything off this paddle attachment. That will do. Take this off, and this is it. The batter is ready, and we can give it a little mix with just a rubber spatula. Scraping from the bottom of the bowl, and this is it. It's ready. And now I'm going to prepare the muffin tins, which we can either brush with butter and sprinkle with some flour, or, which is much easier, use paper cups for muffins. And that's what I'm going to do. And now it's time to preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Prepare the muffin tins. And this recipe should give you 12 muffins. And as the oven getting ready, we're going to fill up the cups using this medium ice cream scoop, or as I call it, small ice cream scoop. And now they're going into the preheated to 180 degrees Celsius oven for 15 minutes, and then we turn the tray around and continue baking for another 12 to 15 minutes, depends on your oven, until they're golden brown and have a perfect muffin shape. And in the meantime, we'll prepare our toffee glaze. We'll need 1/2 cup or 1/2 tin of condensed milk, which I'm going to put in this small, tiny pan, and 1/2 cup of dark brown sugar. This pan is very small, but we'll manage. On a very low heat, we need to bring it to a simmer and stir until the sugar is dissolved. Stirring it gently, because it's such a tiny pan, but it's okay, it won't spill. The condensed milk is getting runnier, and the sugar is gradually dissolving. Pouring it into a medium-sized bowl. To this we're adding 1 cup of icing sugar, which I advise you to sift in, because sometimes there are some grainy parts in the icing sugar, which is very difficult to get rid of once it is. So we'll just avoid that. Just use this little sifter. See, a lot of lumps. It's not a problem, just with your finger, just press them down and it will be all nice and powdery. Stir this in. And add more. And at this point I'm going to add, whilst the toffee glaze is still warm, we're adding a knob of butter, and the knob is actually 20 grams exactly. Stir it in. Stir it until the butter is completely melted into the glaze, and then add the rest of the icing sugar. All the icing sugar is incorporated, and to make it absolutely perfect, which you actually don't have to, I'm going to whisk it a little bit with a handheld whisk to make it a little bit fluffier and a little bit creamier, but you don't have to really, you can use it just like this. It's perfect. And the first batch of muffins are almost ready, and I'm going to fill up the second set of cups. That's it. Ready to go. And the first tray is now ready. Nicely golden brown, and I'm transferring them onto this wire rack to cool, and then we'll glaze them. And now I'll glaze the muffins. Take about a very full teaspoon. Just put it on top, and because the muffins are very warm, they will just melt the glaze and coat nicely the top of the muffins. It's so delicious. It looks delicious because it is. I'm adding now, because the first one where I started, it's all already melted, and I can see that I can add a little bit more of this gorgeous glaze. And so with the second one, I will show you in a close-up what it should look like. Done. And that's them all now glazed, and we'll just give them a little bit of time for the glaze to set and harden a little bit, and then we will sample them, and what you will get is that you'll have this very lovely fluffy muffin inside with bits of apple, and then this creamy viscous caramelly toffee glaze on top of that, and it's just a very lovely combination, and if you try it, I'm sure you will love it. Thank you for watching this episode of Culinary Haven. Stay tuned for more culinary autumnal delights. Coming up very soon, butternut squash risotto. Until next time, bye.